Hey, everybody. It's Uncle Chad and Corny Cory with another episode of Hatchet. We are trying to rip through this book, Hatchet. We are this far. Whoops. Wow. We are this far through Hatchet. For anybody that cares. Elena, I think you're maybe one of the only ones out there. You, Worth, Susan. Hopefully others are watching as well. Tonight I have the added challenge of trying to deal with a wound I have on my leg. I can't show you because I can't lift my leg that high. But I will tell you that I got my shin skinned up. We were at a course that did zip lining, and there were some obstacles up in the trees, and I got clever with my friend Marcus from Peace Corps, Connie, Marcus, and Ella. We were up by Bailey, Colorado together, and climbing around, and there were some like 2x6s on ropes kind of thing. I tried to get clever and go low, do some wrestling stuff, do some wrestling moves. And it didn't end well. And it was right at the very beginning of our episode. It was like the first 5 minutes we were there. So the whole day I was in pain, but that was good because I like it. I like that kind of pain. It was like, all right, chicks like scars kind of thing, right? Sorry if anybody gets offended by the word chicks, but I use it every now and then. Corey, how you been?
Oh, pretty good. Just waiting to read another chapter of Hatchet here with you, Chad.
Oh, good. All right. Can you give us a little bit of a refresher?
Well, I would, but first I'd like to know why you're so late down here tonight, Chad.
What do you mean?
Well, I was waiting for you, but you sure did take your sweet time upstairs before you came down here to read the book to Elena and I.
Okay. Let me explain. I have discovered a new food, and it's a good food. If I were ever, get this, if I were ever stranded on a desert island, this is one of these questions people ask, if you were ever stranded on a desert island and you had one food, what would you bring? I would want wild Dutchman sunflower seeds from Mound City, South Dakota. I just discovered the 3-pound bag, Corey. 3 pounds. And then I can get like a whole box will have like 3 of these in them. And I get 3 of those boxes delivered, and they have to tape them together. So it's pretty cool. These are delicious, and this way I don't even have to mess with the bag and just stick my whole hand in there, stick the spitters in, and I give myself, this is my evening food, Corey.
Oh, yeah? What do you mean, Chad? What do you mean your evening food?
What I mean is I try and not eat 2 hours before I go to bed. So I try and go to bed at 10:30. So I stop eating food at 8:30, generally speaking. I can have like a couple raisins or something, but I can sit and hit spitters for a good while because you don't get full. So that's kind of cool. So that's kind of my go-to food, Corey.
Well, that's good to know, Chad. Hey, can we get to reading this book already?
Yeah, I think we can. Let's do this. Let's do this for Elena and our sweet nieces in France. Lily and Ophélie, we saw them. We saw you guys on did that web chat here a few days ago, and you guys are looking pretty sweet. Ophelia's getting her hair in, which is nice. And Lily, of course, you've got such nice big black curls and those big cheeks too. And let's not forget about you, Taro, my friend over in Japan either, and all you other kids, the Eisman kids up in Selby, and the Grotlachine kids, and I'm trying to think of anybody else. If I forget people, I'm sorry. I'm really freaking bad with names and stuff, so just forgive me. So let's get to going here. Let's see here. Corey, where are we at?
Chapter 11, page 98 through 104.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's get going. Alrighty. So, chapter 11 of
Hatchet.
There were these things to do. He transferred all the eggs from the small beach onto the shelter, reburying them near his sleeping area. It took all his will to keep from eating another one as he moved them, but he got it done, and when they were out of sight again, it was easier. He added wood to the fire and cleaned up the camp area. A good laugh that cleaning up the camp. All he did was shake out his windbreaker and hang it in the sun to dry. The berry juice had soaked in and smoothed the sand where he'd slept.
Just one sec. Sorry. My leg doesn't hurt. It's just I don't like it when it like hits something. I made it bleed today while I was sitting at my desk because I smoked it again. I have a little chair that I use as a table where I have my keyboard and stuff. It didn't feel very good. It didn't hurt that bad when I did it, but like I haven't had a nice one that went right down to the white on the shin for quite a while. It's about that long. It's not so bad. Connie wanted to and Marcus wanted to spray antiseptic on it, make me jump around, dance it like a leprechaun, but I wouldn't let him do it. So hit it with a little peroxide and put a bandage on it yesterday. It's fine. It's just one of those things to have around. So it's a blast. But anyway, where were we here, Corey? Where were we at?
Yeah, we're distracted by something. Let's see here. A good laugh. That cleaning out the camp, all he did is shake out his windbreaker to hang it in the sun to dry. The berry juice that had soaked in and smoothed the sand where he slept. That's where we're at, Chad. Now go!
Wow.
Corey. Okay, appreciate it. All right. But it was a mental thing. He had gotten depressed thinking about how they hadn't found him yet, and when beep, he was busy and had something to do, the depression seemed to leave. So there were things to do. With the camp squared away, he brought in more wood. He had decided to always have enough on hand for 3 days, and after spending one night with a fire for a friend, he knew what a staggering amount of wood it would take. He worked all through the morning at the wood, breaking down dead limbs and breaking or chopping them into small pieces, storing them neatly beneath the overhang. He stopped once to take a drink at the lake, and in his reflection he saw that the swelling on his head was nearly gone. There was no pain there, so he assumed that it had taken care of itself. His leg was also back to normal, although he had a small pattern of holes, roughly star-shaped, where the quills had nailed him, and while he was standing at the lakeshore, taking stock, he noticed that his body was changing. He had never been fat, but he had been slightly heavy with a little extra weight just above his belt at his sides. This was completely gone, and his stomach had caved into the hunger, and the sun had cooked him past burning, so he was tanning. And with the smoke from the fire, his face was starting to look like leather. But perhaps more than his body was the change in his mind, or the way he was becoming.
Get it?
I'm not the same, he thought. I see, I hear differently.
Sounds like COVID, right?
He did not know when the change started, but it was there when a sound beep. Corey. That was was not at a page.
I missed my opportunity. I was sleeping because you're reading so slow. So I missed the spot and I woke up and decided to go ahead and just do it.
It was a little rude. I'm not entirely sure why you would do that, but I think we had talked about this before, hadn't we? About you interrupting in the middle of when I was reading?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chad. I'm sorry I let you down, buddy.
It's okay. Just let's not let it happen too often, okay?
All right, get back to it, Everett. Jeez.
All right, I'll get back to reading. I'm not the same, he thought. I see, I hear differently. He did not know when the change started, but it was there when a sound came to him now. He didn't just hear it, but he would know the sound. He would swing and look at it. A breaking twig, a movement of the air, a crow. And know the sound as if it somehow could move his mind back down the wave of sound to the source. He could know what the sound was before he quite realized he had heard it. And when he saw something, a bird moving, a wing inside a bush or a ripple on the water, he would truly see that thing, not just notice it as he used to notice things in the city. He would see all parts of it, see the whole thing, the feathers, see the color of the feathers, see the bush, see the size of the shape and the color of its leaves. He would see the way the light moved with the ripples on the water and see that the wind made the ripples and which way the wind had blown to make the ripples move in that certain way. None of that used to be in Brian, and now it was part of him. A changed part of him, a grown part of him, and the two things, his mind and his body, had come together as well, had made a connection with each other that he didn't quite understand. When his ears heard a sound or his eyes saw a sight, his mind took control of his body without his thinking. He moved to face the sound or sight, moved to make ready for it, to deal with it.
Beep! That's page 100, Chad. That's page 100.
All right, Cory. Cory! There were these things to do. When the wood was done, he decided to get a signal fire ready. Good, it's about time. He moved to the top of the rock ridge that comprised the bluff over his shelter and was pleased to find a large, flat stone area. More wood, he thought, moaning inwardly. He went back to the fallen trees and found more dead limbs, carrying them up on the rock until he had enough for a bonfire. Initially, he had thought of making a fire every day, but he couldn't. He would never be able to keep the wood supply going. So while he was working, he decided to have the fire ready, and if he heard an engine or even thought he heard a plane engine, he would run up with the burning limb and set off the signal fire. Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it, Cory?
Yeah, he sounds like he's pretty handy.
Yes, he does. Things to do. Things to do, Cory. At the last trip to the top of the stone bluff with wood, he stopped, sat on the point overlooking the lake, and rested. The lake lay before him, 20 or so feet below, and he had not seen it this way since he had come in with the plane. Remembering the crash, he had a moment of fear, a breath-tightening little rip of terror, but it passed, and he was quickly caught up in the beauty of the scenery. It was so incredibly beautiful that it was almost unreal. From his height, he could see not just the lake, but across part of the forest, a green carpet, and it was full of life.
Beep! 101 to 102, Chad.
Thanks, Cory. Birds, insects, there was a constant hum and song.
At the other end of the bottom of the L, there was another large rock sticking out over the water, and on top of the rock, a snaggly pine had somehow found food and grown, bent and gnarled. Sitting on one limb was a bluebird with a crest and a sharp beak, a kingfisher. He thought of a picture he had seen once, which left the branch while he watched and dove into the water. It emerged and split part of a second later. In its mouth was a small fish wiggling silver in the sun. It took the fish to a limb, juggled it twice, and swallowed it whole. Fish! Of course, he thought. There were fish in the lake, and they were food. And if a bird could do it... Fish? He didn't know there were fish in the lake? I find that frustrating, Corey. We're at page 102, and he just figured out that there's fish in the lake and that he can eat them? I guess he's from the city, so... What? Like, but don't you read...
I don't know, Chad. I don't eat fish.
No. Well, that's a good point. I used to have to eat... we ate walleye when we were kids up on the river up in South Dakota. I'd fish on Fridays in Omaha at school. Fish, yeah, tilapia. It's good. It's good with corn.
Good with corn? What do you mean?
I mean like corn in a can.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Jeez, I got sidetracked here. Okay. It was, he saw after a moment, literally packed with life. Small fish swam everywhere, some narrow and long. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. I got ahead of myself a little bit. I will come back to this. He scrambled down the side of the bluff and trotted to the edge of the lake, looking down into the water. Somehow it had never occurred to him to look inside the water, only at the surface. The sun was flashing back up into his eyes, and he moved off to the side and took his shoes off and waded out 15 feet. Then he turned and stood again with the sun at his back and studied the water again. He saw after a moment, literally packed with life. Small fish swam everywhere, some narrow and long, some round, most 3 or 4 inches long, some a bit larger, and many smaller. There was a patch of mud off to the side, leading into deeper water, and he could see old clam shells there, so there must be clams. As he watched a crayfish is the way they have it spelled, looking like a tiny lobster, left one of the empty clam shells and went to another, looking for something to eat, digging with its claws. Crawfish. While he stood, some of the small, roundish fish came quite close to his legs, and he tensed, got ready, and made a wild stab at grabbing one of them. They exploded away in 100 flickers of quick light, so fast that he had no hope of catching them that way. But they soon came back, seemed to be curious about him, and as he walked from the water, he tried to think of a way to use that curiosity to catch them. He had no hooks or string, but if he could somehow lure them into the shallows and make a spear, a small fish spear, he might be able to strike fast enough to get one. He would have to find the right kind of wood, slim and straight. He had seen some willows up along the lake that might work, and he could use the hatchet to sharpen it and shape it while he was sitting by the fire tonight. And that brought up the fire, which he had to feed again. He looked at the sun and saw it was getting late in the afternoon, and when he thought of how late it was, he thought that he ought to reward all his work with another egg, and that made him think of some kind of dessert would be nice. He smiled when he thought of dessert, so fancy, and he wondered if he should move up the lake and see if... Beep, 103 to 104, Chad. Thanks, Cory. He could find some raspberries after he banked the fire, and while he was looking for the right wood for a spear. Spear wood, he thought. and it all rolled together, just rolled together and rolled over him. There were things to do. All right, we are now done with chapter 11. Moving on to, ready for this, Corey?
Yeah, go for it, Chad.
Chapter 12. Do you like that? I like to say it that way. Chapter 12. Coming into Halloween. Chapter 12.
Kind of scared me a little bit, Chad.
I'm sorry, Corey. What do you mean? What? I didn't mean to scare you, Corey. Why am I scaring you?
I don't know, you're just kind of talking funny and stuff.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to be funny, that's all. Just try and throw your voice a little bit every now and then, you know. People think it's funny.
No, I don't know if I think it's funny.
Well, okay. It was just a joke, Corey.
You didn't mean that, Chad. You were just trying to be funny again, weren't you?
I was. It was a good one, Corey. I'm glad you finally got that. That was really.
You're just ripping on me now.
Well, maybe a little bit. Okay. All right. We better get out of here. So, okay. We have an exit song we need to put on. What do we got here? Oh, Corey. Sorry. No. I can't figure it out. So we're just gonna go away. Corey, nighty night. We'll be back here in a few days with working on chapter 12. Okay.
Sounds good, Chad. See you next time.
All right. See you, Corey. See you, everybody. Night.